I wonder how you see the importance of this contest, because when we wake up tomorrow, it's going to be all about Manchester.
Yes, so Iowa makes a statement, but New Hampshire makes a difference. And I don't believe that Iowa is reflective of the country.
Yeah.
It may be reflective of Republicans. The biggest difference between Iowa and New Hampshire among Republicans is that New Hampshire are economic conservatives and Iowa are social conservatives. So you have groups like the Family Leader, and they endorsed Governor Ron DeSantis. The question now is how many of them switch from Donald Trump, who they voted in 2016, to DeSantis in 2024. It appears like the DeSantis campaign has peaked. We don't see the momentum over the last, let's say, 72 hours. I know that the events of the other candidates, the Trump event you couldn't get into. It was just so jammed. And I'm very careful about making prognoses based on who shows up for campaign events. But that's what a caucus is. Who shows up in this weather to make their voice heard.
Well, to that point, I was at an event for Ron DeSantis last night. It was a pretty packed room. Obviously, he has invested a great deal in the ground game here in Iowa. The campaign essentially has bet the farm, if you will, on this first caucus state. Can he replicate that anywhere else? Are you seeing any indication that if there's enthusiasm for here in Iowa, that extends anywhere else? And then what is the fate of his campaign if he can't come in first in this state?
That's the question. I'm looking at polling right now in New Hampshire that has DeSantis in single digits. There's supposed to be a debate on Wednesday in New Hampshire, Thursday, and then another one on Saturday. And rumor has it that Nikki Haley is going to refuse to debate. So that's going to deny or make it impossible for DeSantis to be able to draw that direct one-on-one comparison. And I will say this. In the debate that they had here several nights ago, I've never seen those two candidates better. Haley and DeSantis. I'm thinking, how is Joe Biden going to stand up for this? I know that's a long time in the future, but both of them were powerful. Both of them were very strong in their points of view, and the campaign is getting negative, very negative.
Are you still of the mind that Joe Biden could beat Donald Trump, but not the others in the field then?
At this point, yes. You just summarized it perfectly. If the election were held today, I was held to account on this. And I said words I never dreamed I would say before. If the election were held today, I think Donald Trump would beat Joe Biden. But it's another 9 months from now.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the two weakest candidates in the field are Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Put up any other Democrat, and that person wins. Put up any other Republican, and that person wins. So it's my job as a pollster to be able to look not just at what's going to happen tonight or next week, but look 9 months down the road. And I'll give you three conclusions. Number one, the economy is still going to be important, but it's inflation, it's affordability that matters most. Number two is going to be turnout. Are young people going to participate like they did in 2016 and 2020 for the Democrats? And number three, is there a sleeper issue? Are we going to have an international conflict, or is abortion going to rise like it did in 2022 and swing the election towards the Democrats?
Well, the Supreme Court is going to have to make a decision on access to the abortion pill, mifepristone, so that very well could factor in here.
And by the way, access to the ballot.
Well,
and Donald Trump,
the 14th
whether or not
Amendment
he
question,
could be charged.
surely.
It's amazing that we're supposed to be having an election for the 337 million Americans, but instead we're focused on the Supreme Court and the decisions that they make and the impact that they're going to have on the election system.
Yeah, not the branch of government we would necessarily think we'd be focusing on this year. To return to Nikki Haley, and Bloomberg hasn't independently verified that she will not be debating in New Hampshire next week, but New Hampshire does seem to be the state where it is thought that she actually could pull off something of a victory because of the independence that she potentially could claim here. What are you seeing from perhaps registered Democrats who are considering switching over, from independent voters? Is there really that support for her across the aisle? Could she see any of it showing up here in Iowa tonight, knowing they could change their registration up until this evening?
It's harder to do it in Iowa because it's still more of a partisan state. New Hampshire celebrates its independence, live free or die. And I see it as having a greater impact. The other issue is that Joe Biden is not on the ballot. Democrats are not engaged in that campaign up in New Hampshire, so there's a chance for independents to have their voices heard. I think New Hampshire is now too close to call. I never thought I'd say that. I do believe that tonight Donald Trump is going to have a very big victory here.
Too close to call between Trump and Nikki Haley.
That's correct.
speak to us about the quality of polls. Our listeners and viewers, many of whom have discounted them after the past couple of cycles. The quality of the sample and the numbers that we're sharing with our audience. We've had surrogates from all the campaigns tell us they don't believe them. How about you?
They have to say that.
Yeah.
If I'm losing, if every poll shows me down
Sure.
by 30%.
But you're an expert. How do you look at it?
I take them with a grain of salt. I do a lot of focus groups to understand why people feel the way that they do. And that's been my focus in this campaign. Not to try to project who wins and loses, but to be able to explain why. And my greatest surprise, being ignored, being betrayed, being forgotten, still resonates after all this time. And that explains why Donald Trump is doing so well, despite the felonies, charges, despite being kicked off the ballot, all the chaos that goes along with him. Many Republicans are willing to put up with that chaos because they think he's being victimized and they think that he's being not just prosecuted, but persecuted.